Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesdays on the Stoop with Anne DeForest for Embodied Writing. So I'm going to read Anne's bio. Whether poetry or prose, fiction or nonfiction, Anne DeForest's work centers on the resonance of place. Her short stories, essays, and poetry have appeared in Coal Hill Review, Unbroken, Noctua Review, Cleaver Magazine, Found Poetry Review, The Journal, Hotel Amerika, Open City, and PIF, and in Hidden City, Philadelphia, where she is a contributing writer. Ways of Walking, an anthology of essays she edited, will be published by Muir Books in May 2022, a project inspired by walking the entire perimeter of Philadelphia twice. I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of links as well. If you're on YouTube, these are going to be in the description area. If you're here in the Zoom, it's going to be in the chat. These are links to the book, so you can purchase it, and also the launch event. Now, Anne, please go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, Ashani. And hi, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces, or at least names here, and some people I haven't seen for a long time, and I'm really excited to see you. And also, I have both Doug Gordon, who's the publisher of New Door Books, who's publishing Ways of Walking, and is a wonderful writer as well here, and also one of my contributors, Raul Meda, is here. So it's along with many friends and some people who are new to me. So I'm really excited to do this. Ideally, today, I would send everyone outside to take a 15 to 20 minute walk, and then we'd all reconvene and write after that, because as I wrote in the introduction to this, the idea of the importance, as John Muir said, of going out in order to go in, and how it's necessary to get outside every day and move around, and how that informs my writing, and I hope your writing as well. But instead, I'm doing something a little bit different that has to do with just how even movement, even if you're not going outdoors, can help inform your writing. I don't know how many of you were here 2 weeks ago when Lior did her Wednesday on the Stoop, which was really inspirational. She did something different than what I'm going to be doing today, but it's definitely complementary. And her approach was, she was locating emotion in our bodies, and then by locating emotion in our bodies, then we wrote about it. And I found it really exciting and inspirational. It was a great workshop, and it's available on the Blue Stoop YouTube channel. But so this is a complement to that, but it's also different. I'm looking at what is the relationship between our bodies and our writing. How does moving outdoors and indoors affect how we write and what we write? And for me, sort of the source of this is more what you might call the mind-body dilemma. As a kid, I was pretty much of a daydreamer. I was also a big reader. I was kind of, labeled as brainy. And in other words, I lived a lot in my head. So my mind and imagination, I think, did get developed, but sort of over my body being developed, and also mind and body were often seen as antithetical. And I don't know if any of you had that same experience growing up, but I think that if you were a creative type or a more intellectual type, there weren't always outlets to move to besides organized sports, certainly in my generation. But I always liked to walk. And it was in 2016 that I got involved in a project that really changed my life. It changed the way I experienced the city, and it changed my writing too. I was involved in a collaboration where with a group of artists, where we decided to walk the entire perimeter of Philadelphia. And that experience led to many things. One of them is the anthology that will be coming out next week, where many writers talk about their experiences walking. But it made me reflect about how walking really is a way of knowing, a way of literally incorporating experience into, and the places we move through into the essence of our beings. And I think that's very important for us as creative people to have that relationship with our body and the sense of how we are as bodies moving through the world. So since I can't send you all outside to walk, I have 2 and possibly 3, if we have time, movement exercises that we're going to do together, with some time for writing in between, and then at the end, hopefully time for sharing and conversation. A practice that I've been involved in for many years now is something called authentic movement. It's a dance practice. Another name for it is contemplative dance. And it's very simple. What happens is that you focus on the impulses your body has to move, and just go with those impulses. So I'm going to guide you through some authentic movement exercises, and for 5 minutes, and then we're going to write. So let's get started. So if everybody, so inauthentic movement practice, ideally, as you discover how your body wants to move by closing your eyes and feeling the impulse that your body is leading you toward. It can be as simple as, your fingers start wanting to wiggle, or it could be more that you want to jump all over the place, or start running around the room. It can be any of those things. Usually traditionally there's a witness, someone who holds the space and watches. You should feel free to keep your video off if you don't want to be watched. That will be fine, but I will hold the space in any case. And what happens also traditionally after a session of authentic movement is the movers convene to do something called creative formation. So in that case, our creative formation today is going to be writing after we move. So I'm going to begin with a standing exercise. So everybody stand up. And close your eyes. And have your feet planted on the ground. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Take another. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And feel the force of gravity that roots you to the ground. Feel whatever it is that is below your feet, and feel what's below that. See if you have any knots or tightness in your body, cramps. Wiggle those a little bit, wiggle them out. Those will be your first point of awareness. Now, just start to move. And you're just going to move. If you're in a space where you might crash into things, you can keep your eyes slightly open to prevent that. But try to keep your gaze slightly closed and focused within, feeling how your body is telling you it wants to move. All right, open your eyes and come back to your desks or your writing spaces and just start writing. You can write about the movement experience, or you can write about something else that came up during the movement experience. And you can write about something that you've been working on earlier today and see if moving has changed your relationship to that piece. Just write whatever you feel like writing. And we're going to write for 5 minutes. Okay, you can stop writing. And does anybody want to share what they wrote, or what the experience of moving was like for the writing? Did awareness of your body inform your writing in any way? You can either answer out loud, or you can put that in the chat. I'll write the question.
I kind of just wrote about the experience.
Okay.
So it's called Awakening. I'm having a staring contest with my computer monitor. The monitor is winning. My body is tethered to my chair, yet my mind is free to wander aimlessly from present to past to future, an unending loop that leaves me in limbo. I look at the time, minutes tick away as the day escapes from me. I invite myself to stand up, stretch. I accept the invitation willingly, my stiff joints asking, "What took you so long?" Soon I find myself moving to a melody only I can hear, to dance steps that, luckily, only I can see.
Thank you. Thank you, Darcy. That was beautiful. Did anybody else have that experience of feeling that you started to hear music in your head as you were moving, that you created dancing, created your own soundtrack as you moved? That's a kind of fun part of what can come up and how we end up moving. And how do you feel it affected your writing, Darcy, in terms of what you wrote, or how what did you come back into the writing space with a different sense of your body?
Just refreshed. Around 3 o'clock is usually my downtime. So instead of reaching for caffeine, this is a great alternative. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to talk about their experience or read something that they wrote?
I can go. Darcy, that was great. I'm not going to read what I wrote. It's a longer piece that I'm working on, been working on for a few days, but it's in first person present tense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that going inwards and connecting with my body, even just for 5 minutes, it gets my head into first person present tense a little more solidly, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think that's a really good insight. I think that idea of something about movement and being embodied is that you are in the present. And if you're having a hard time being in the present, especially if that's part of what you're writing, that can be really helpful to just, it can also be helpful to sort of sit and meditate and be in the present, but there's something about moving, because writing is mobile. Writing kind of moves you through space and time as well. So I think that it helps, it helps with that present awareness. Now that's great. I'm really happy to hear that. Anybody else have anything to share? It was funny because I said I would hold the space, but most of you were blank. And there was one person who I don't know if it was Darcy. Did you have your screen on? Somebody had the screen. I saw Kit had her screen on, and I got to stare at her space because you disappeared. You were disembodied in your space. But somebody had their elbow kept coming onto the screen, and it was really a wonderful. It was like I was having a kind of dance performance with just this elbow that kept sneaking into the corner. So that was part of my experience, and I couldn't help moving as well a little bit. I don't know how the Shawnee, this is going to show up on the video in the end. one of the things that I'm always struck by, I didn't want to do too much guided meditation as you were moving, but is to me sometimes just an awareness of body parts you don't often think about, often like fingers, toes, little wrists, joints that especially if you're sitting for a long time, that you're not thinking about. And also the relationship between your parts, how movement is a coordination, that you have to move all your parts together. And that's often an insight that I have. Yeah, that's true. Avant-garde dance. So now we're going to do an exercise that's about being aware of the space around us. So this time we'll do something with our eyes open. And this time I'm going to read you some prompts as we move. And these are the kinds of prompts that you could take with you, could also use if you go outside for a walk. One of the things that I've been learning a lot about since I started thinking about walking and the relationship between walking and art is there are groups of people who consider themselves walking artists, and walking is their art. And a lot of them owe their origins to a group of people in mid-20th century France, the Situationists, and a guy named Guy Debord. And one of the things they did was they like to set little exercises that they called dérive, that were ways to engage with space to out in the world to create what they called an authentic experience. This is a kind of anti-capitalist socialist critique of modern life, which is often about performance, being seen, consuming, acquiring. And what they were looking to do was to create moments in life that were deliberate for the purpose of reawakening and pursuing authentic desires, experiencing life as an adventure, and thus liberating everyday life. So these are not true dérives, but these are just little things to keep aware of as you move that help you focus your attention. And you could take some of these outside of your own space. I don't know what kinds of spaces you're in, how big they are, but basically I'm going to ask you to walk around them. And, if you have a hallway or something, you can also go out and walk around that, but just come back in 10 minutes. But I'm going to start us up again by standing. So start as before with your feet firmly planted. You can close your eyes or keep them open, but this time shift your attention to the space you're in. Take some breaths. And just widen your attention. Don't look around, you don't need to look around. Just be aware of the space that's surrounding you and keep widening it. Widening it into what kind of structure are you in? What's below you? What's above you? Who else inhabits this structure with you? Are there animals or creatures? Listen. What do you hear in this space? Outside, inside? Picture the air around you. Picture the sky. If you're on an upper floor, let the gravity carry you down to the foundation of what you're standing on, and then the ground underneath it, and the water underneath that. What was this land before this building you're now in was built? Who else walked on this land? Picture everyone here in this Zoom space together, how we're connected, how we are all on the same earth, under the same sky. Now, if your eyes are closed, open them and walk around your space And as you move, I'm going to give you some prompts out loud. You can choose to just focus, take one and focus on it, or you can keep switching your attention as I give you a new prompt. Pick a color: red, green, yellow, orange, blue. Where do you spot it? How many different shades do you see? What's the oldest thing you see? What's the newest? Who has been in this space before you? What sounds do you hear? Are there any smells? What textures do you feel? Walk to a part of the space you rarely pay attention to. Spend a few seconds examining it. Speed up. Move as quickly as you can in through this space or around it. Slow down. Move very slowly. Look up at the ceiling while you walk. Look down at the ground while you walk. Come back and write about your space and your experience. Okay, come to a point of stopping and So I have an option here. It's 4:45. I have a third movement exercise in mind, or we could just share our work and talk about that experience. Which, does anybody have any preference? You can say in the chat what you'd prefer.
And we can go ahead and turn the recording off if people would feel more comfortable sharing work in the last 15 minutes that way.
Do people have a preference?
I love that exercise, but I'd love to know your other one too, Anne.
Oh, okay, thanks, Abby. Well, we can we'll do one more. We'll have time for a quick moving and writing, and it will be short, and then we can maybe have a little time to chat. We'll do 5 minutes of moving and then another 5 minutes of writing. This is an exercise in what I call empathetic movement, and this is really, especially if we're writing about characters who are not ourselves, those of us who write fiction, gives a very useful exercise, but also a useful exercise in embodying constriction, embodying difficulty moving. And so if this is triggering for any of you, please feel free to go back to just the original authentic movement exercise where you just let your body move how it feels. But this is an exercise in which you impose restrictions on your movement to feel what it might feel like if you are unable to walk, or if you are impaired in any other way, if you move slowly for some reason in a fast world, if you are shouldering a burden, even physical or metaphorical. So what I want everyone to do is stand up, again, close your eyes, and move in your space, imposing some kind of restriction on yourself. So you can move hunched over and just move very, very slowly. You can crawl, you can lie on the floor and slither, but do something that makes your movement strained and difficult. And we're just going to do this for 3 minutes. So go ahead and find a way. And if you have someone you know that you would like to be empathetic toward and can picture how they move or how they're feeling, if they're in pain, either physical or psychological, try to embody that experience and move in a way that's constrained, and that you're carrying some of that difficulty for them. Okay, you can come back and write now. Write about that experience. You can write it in the first person or the third person. This will be a quick write, and then we'll have a little bit of time to close. I'll give you 3 more minutes. Okay, let's wrap up. Does anybody have anything to share either from the earlier exercise or this one that they want to read or talk about the experience?
I found these really valuable, Anne. Thank you. I'm a big walker, and walking is a large part of my writing process, but it's not available to me on rainy days. And I do walk in the rain, but some days more so than others. I do sometimes use movement, but I've never intentionally combined the movement with the writing. Thank you.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm happy about that. It was fun, especially to think of the exercises, because I would usually go outside as well, and also to think about, giving little prompts to yourself to help you think about what you see around you, which of course you can do in your own house as you can outside. So that was fun for me to be able to generate that. So I'm happy. The last exercise really came out of one of the a few of the essays in the book, which is that I realized that some of, not walking is something that we all share as human beings. It's really our common humanity, and we're bipedal creatures, and that makes us makes us unique. We also are able to think and walk at the same time. Not always well, but we are able to do that. So that's a kind of interesting aspect of being human. And some evolutionary biologists think that walking helped, they don't know, there's debate about what the relationship is, but there's this idea that being able to stand up on 2 feet freed our hands to do things that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, because we would have been using them to move through space, and that the use of the hand resulted in the development of the brain. So there's this interesting relationship between the moving, getting up on 2 legs and starting to move, and then having our hands free to explore with our hands and make things and experience the world through touch, which then led to brain development. And if you, if you've been around babies, it's so interesting how touch really comes first, the brain develops, and then they start walking, and then that's a whole other relationship to the world. But the other thing is that not everybody can walk, or not everybody, walking isn't easy for everyone. And that ended up being one of the themes that's addressed in the 26 essays that are in this anthology. So I thought I've often done this with characters because I have a hard time sometimes describing how characters move through space. So I had set up that exercise, the empathy exercise, I think once for myself when I wanted to figure out how a character was moving. And then I realized, oh, it's like a way of being empathetic with people who do have difficulty moving through space. So I'm glad you all found that helpful and generative. Anybody else want to share anything else you have to say?
I'll just share something silly and amusing in that last exercise. I started out being my nanny, who's 92, and realizing that she's so stooped, she can't look ahead, and how that kind of mirrors not looking ahead into life anymore, because, she's coming to the end of it. But upstairs where I am, I haven't been cleaning very much, and there are lots of dead and dying stink bugs. And I decided I was just tired. I'm always tired because I don't sleep well. And I just thought I will be a stink bug. And I lay on my back with my, my knees up for a few minutes. And that felt really good. I thought it was like bringing me back to life. So nothing profound, nothing about writing, but just it was kind of like interesting being a stink bug for a minute.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And I should say that you can have empathetic movement with other creatures, including stink bugs too. But any other creature. Sometimes fun to find yourself moving like a snake or a cat, or frisking around like a puppy. Those could be generative as well, that kind of movement. Well, anyone else?
Yeah, Kit, that was awesome, by the way. I love that idea of being a stink bug. I have always used walking, and it's just whenever I'm stuck or don't know where I'm going with a piece of writing, I'll go for a walk. Which, by the way, cell phones are amazing because now you can talk to yourself when you go for a walk and nobody thinks anything. But 20 years ago when I would do this, who's that woman walking down the street talking to herself? But
right.
But I love this idea of intentional movement to put yourself someplace specific in your writing. So thank you for that, because I feel like I have a new tool in my toolbox for
great
getting unstuck.
That's fabulous. And I guess the one thing it's after 5, so I'm aware of the time. But the other thing that what you just said reminded me is that I don't know if any of you ever write while walking, because that's the other thing that the cell phone makes available, is that people, like, you can take notes quickly. Like I sometimes carry a notebook with me, but then you have to stop and you have to get out your pen, and that takes a while. But sometimes you can just, like, you have an idea and you can type and keep moving. So that does happen to me sometimes. I don't do it as a regular practice, but 2 of the people in the book, one of them is here, write, and that's part of their essays, is writing while they're walking, which I think is really cool. an interesting practice. Well, thank you, everyone. This was great. It was really lovely to see you all, and it was a good gathering, and I'm glad this was helpful to you.
Thank you everyone so much for being here. As a reminder, we do these Wednesdays 4 to 5 p.m. So please be sure to sign up for some of our future ones as well. And you can find those on our website. I'm gonna put that in the chat. And then otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Okay, thanks, Ishani. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Anne.